The legendary Trojan War, myth and history. The Battle of Troy, or the Trojan War, is one of the most legendary conflicts in ancient history, immortalized in both Greek mythology and epic poetry. While there is some debate over whether the war itself actually took place, its story has profoundly shaped Western literature and culture. The war is primarily known through the Iliad, one of the two epic poems attributed to Homer, and the Aeneid, written by the Roman poet Virgil. This video will delve into the mythological and historical aspects of the Trojan War, its major characters, key events, and the ultimate fall of Troy, alongside its enduring influence on the arts and culture. The mythological prelude to the war. The origins of the Trojan War can be traced back to a pivotal event in Greek mythology known as the Judgment of Paris. According to the myth, Zeus, the king of the gods, organized a wedding banquet for Peleus and Thetis, the parents of the Greek hero Achilles. However, one goddess, Eris, the personification of discord, was not invited. In retaliation, Eris threw a golden apple inscribed with the words, "For the fairest," into the midst of the banquet. Three goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, each claimed the apple, and they asked Paris, the prince of Troy, to decide which of them was the fairest. The goddesses each attempted to bribe Paris. Hera offered him power. Athena promised wisdom and skill in battle. And Aphrodite promised him the love of the most beautiful mortal woman, Helen of Sparta. Paris ultimately awarded the apple to Aphrodite, which set off a chain of events that would lead to the Trojan War. Helen, the wife of Menelaus, the king of Sparta, was considered the most beautiful woman in the world. When Paris visited Sparta, he seduced Helen and took her back to Troy, an act that enraged Menelaus. The insult to Menelaus's honor and the abduction of his wife triggered the Greek states to unite against Troy. A coalition of Greek kings and warriors, including Agamemnon, Achilles, Odysseus, and many others, set sail for Troy to retrieve Helen and punish the Trojans. The Greek coalition was led by Agamemnon, the brother of Menelaus, and the king of Mycenae. Agamemnon's role as the leader of the Greek forces made him a central figure in the war. However, his leadership was often questioned due to his brash decisions and his volatile personality. Despite this, he was a powerful king, and his army consisted of some of the greatest Greek heroes of the time. Achilles, the greatest of the Greek warriors, played a key role in the conflict. His mother, Thetis, was a sea goddess, and his father, Peleus, was a mortal king. Achilles was nearly invincible, with only his heel as a vulnerable spot. Known for his strength, speed, and skill in battle, Achilles' temper and pride often influenced the course of the war. His quarrel with Agamemnon over the captive woman Briseis was one of the central events in the Iliad and significantly impacted the Greek army's morale. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, was another key leader in the Greek coalition. Known for his cunning and intelligence, Odysseus was one of the architects of the strategy that eventually led to the fall of Troy. His involvement in the war, and his subsequent adventures after it, form the basis for another of Homer's epics, the Odyssey. Other notable Greek warriors included Ajax the Great, a mighty hero known for his physical strength, and Nestor, the wise and elderly king of Pylos, who offered counsel to the younger leaders. On the Trojan side, the key figures were led by Priam, the aged king of Troy. Priam's role in the mythos of the war is often that of a tragic figure. He was a father who lost nearly all of his children in the conflict and eventually died at the hands of Achilles' son, Neoptolemus. after the fall of Troy. Paris, the Prince of Troy, whose actions initiated the war, was a key figure in the conflict, though his role is often portrayed as one of a tragic hero. His infatuation with Helen led to the downfall of his city, and while he was a skilled archer, he was not a match for many of the Greek warriors in hand-to-hand combat. Paris's brother, Hector, however, was the true hero of Troy and one of the greatest warriors in the war. Hector was the son of Priam and Hecuba, and he was known for his valor, nobility, and sense of duty to defend his city and family. He was often contrasted with Achilles, as both men were skilled warriors, but their personalities and principles differed. Whereas Achilles was known for his wrath and individualism, Hector was a dutiful son and brother who fought for the survival of his people and family. The Trojan War was characterized by a lengthy siege of the city of Troy, which lasted for 10 years. During this time, the Greeks and Trojans fought numerous battles, but the city itself remained unconquered. Several key events during the siege are chronicled in the Iliad, although the poem only covers a few weeks in the final year of the war. One of the most significant early events was the quarrel between Achilles and Agamemnon. When Agamemnon took Briseis, a war prize given to Achilles, the great warrior withdrew from battle in a fit of rage, taking his Myrmidon warriors with him. This absence was felt heavily by the Greeks, as Achilles was their most formidable fighter. The Trojans, led by Hector, gained the upper hand during this period, and it seemed as though the Greeks would be forced to retreat. As the war dragged on, there were various notable battles, such as the single combat between Paris and Menelaus, which ended inconclusively, and the tragic death of Patroclus, Achilles' close friend. Patroclus donned Achilles' armor and led the Myrmidons into battle in his stead, but he was killed by Hector. This event drove Achilles to return to the battlefield, seeking vengeance for the death of his beloved friend. Achilles' duel with Hector is one of the most iconic moments in the Iliad. After killing Hector, Achilles dishonored his body by dragging it behind his chariot, a grievous insult that further escalated tensions between the two sides. While the Iliad ends with Hector's funeral and a brief respite in the fighting, the fall of Troy is not depicted in Homer's work. It is, however, detailed in later myths and other works, including the Aeneid by Virgil. After Achilles' death, Troy's fate seemed inevitable. The war's conclusion is often attributed to a clever ruse devised by Odysseus. After 10 years of warfare, the Greeks appeared to be on the brink of defeat and were unable to breach Troy's walls. However, Odysseus proposed the idea of building a massive wooden horse, hollowed out to hold a small group of Greek soldiers. This Trojan horse was left outside the gates of Troy as a supposed offering to the gods, with the Greeks pretending to sail away. The Trojans, believing the Greeks had finally given up and left, brought the horse inside the city walls as a symbol of their victory. That night, after the Trojans had fallen asleep, the Greek soldiers hidden inside the horse emerged and opened the gates for the Greek army, who had secretly returned under cover of night. The Greeks poured into the city, and Troy was sacked. The fall of Troy was marked by the slaughter of its inhabitants, the destruction of its great walls, and the death of many of its leaders, including Priam and Hector's son, Astyanax. The city was burned to the ground, and the surviving Trojans were either killed or taken captive. Helen was returned to Menelaus, and the Greeks celebrated their victory. The Trojan War, whether historical or mythological, has left a lasting legacy on Western culture. The Iliad and the Odyssey, together with other works like the Aeneid, have been foundational texts in the Western literary tradition. The themes of honor, fate, revenge, and the complexities of human nature explored in these epics continue to resonate with readers today. The story of the Trojan War has also inspired countless works of art, theater, and film. From Shakespeare to modern Hollywood epics like Troy 2004, the story has remained a touchstone for exploring the nature of war, heroism, and tragedy. The idea of a great and noble city falling to an unforeseen trick, as well as the tragic consequences of human pride and wrath, has continued to captivate audiences throughout history. In archaeology, there has been much debate over whether Troy was a real city and whether a war resembling the events of the Iliad ever took place. In the late 19th century, the German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann excavated the site of Hisarlik in modern-day Turkey and identified it as the location of ancient Troy. While the historical accuracy of the Trojan War remains uncertain, the archaeological discoveries at Hisarlik have shed light on the existence of a powerful city that could have inspired the legend. The Battle of Troy is one of the most enduring myths of ancient Greece, combining themes of heroism, tragedy, love, and war. Whether seen as a literal event or as a mythological allegory, the Trojan War remains a cornerstone of Western storytelling, offering profound insights into human nature, the costs of conflict, and the consequences of pride and vengeance. The epic tales of Achilles, Hector, Helen, and the Trojan horse continue to inspire and fascinate, ensuring the legacy of Troy lives on through the ages. Thanks for watching, like, share, and subscribe.